In a small workshop on the quiet side of town, where snow fell gently from November through March and silence was as thick as the winter air, lived a seamstress named Iris who possessed the extraordinary ability to weave peace itself into the fabric of her winter blankets. Her workshop was modest, a converted attic space with large windows that captured every shade of winter light, from the pale gray of snowy mornings to the deep blue of early winter evenings. Iris had discovered her unusual gift during the hardest winter of her life, when her husband had passed away suddenly, leaving her alone in their drafty old house with grief so heavy she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't find any reason to continue. On the coldest night of that terrible season, unable to bear her racing thoughts and aching heart, she had gone to her sewing room and begun working on a simple quilt, not with any purpose or plan, but simply because her hands needed something to do while her heart tried to heal. As she stitched through that endless night, something miraculous happened. With each careful stitch, she felt a small portion of her anxiety flowing out of her body and into the fabric. The repetitive motion of needle through cloth became a meditation, the rhythm of her breathing synchronized with the rhythm of her sewing, and gradually, a profound calm settled over her like the very blanket she was creating. When she finally finished the quilt at dawn, wrapped herself in it, and fell into the first peaceful sleep she had experienced in months, Iris understood that she had created something far more significant than a simple bed covering. The blanket held within its stitches all the calm she had woven into it during the transformative night, and anyone who used it would receive that same gift of peace. Word of Iris's special blanket spread the way true magic always does, through quiet whispers and grateful testimonies rather than advertisements or announcements. Her first customer was a neighbor whose young son had severe anxiety and couldn't sleep without nightmares. Within days of sleeping under one of Iris's winter blankets, the boy was sleeping peacefully through entire nights, his dreams gentle and his morning mood bright. Iris learned that her gift worked best during winter months, when darkness came early and stayed late, when cold winds rattled windows and the world outside seemed harsh and unwelcoming. Winter was the season when people most needed the comfort her blankets provided, the elderly isolated by icy roads, children anxious about school pressures, adults overwhelmed by holiday expectations, and anyone dealing with seasonal melancholy. Each blanket Iris created was unique, tailored to the specific type of calm its recipient needed most. For people struggling with insomnia, she used deep blue fabrics the color of twilight and stitched in patterns that mimicked the gentle descent into sleep. Spirals that gradually tightened toward the center, representing the mind's natural journey toward rest. These blankets seemed to weigh slightly more than ordinary quilts, their comforting heaviness encouraging the body to release tension and surrender to sleep. For those dealing with anxiety and racing thoughts, Iris created blankets in soft gray and silver tones, using fabrics that had subtle texture changes, smooth cotton alongside slightly rougher linen, giving anxious hands something to touch and explore when thoughts became overwhelming. The stitching patterns in these blankets were deliberately irregular, teaching the mind that perfection wasn't necessary for peace, that calm could exist even in asymmetry and imperfection. Children's blankets were Iris's favorite to create. She used cheerful colors even in winter, warm yellows like candlelight, gentle oranges like firelight, soft pinks like the sky at winter sunset. But the magic she wove into these blankets was specifically designed to help young minds feel safe and protected. She would stitch small pockets into corners where children could keep treasured objects, a smooth stone, a favorite button, a dried flower, giving them tangible anchors to calm when emotions felt too big. Iris discovered that the act of creating these blankets required her to be in a specific state of mind. She could only weave calm into fabric when she herself was experiencing genuine peace. This meant that before beginning any blanket, she had to perform what she called her centering ritual, making chamomile tea in her grandmother's old teapot, sitting by her window watching snow fall until her breathing matched its gentle rhythm, and allowing any personal worries to settle before picking up her needle and thread. The fabrics Iris chose for her winter blankets came from specific sources that added to their calming properties. She used cotton that had been grown in peaceful valleys where farmers sang to their crops. She incorporated wool from sheep that grazed in quiet mountain meadows. She included silk threads that had been dyed using natural plants known for their soothing properties, lavender, chamomile, and soft mosses that grew in shaded forest floors. Some of Iris's most powerful blankets were created for people dealing with grief, as she understood this pain intimately. These blankets were made in gentle earth tones, soft browns and muted greens that suggested the comfort of nature's endless cycles. She would leave small imperfections deliberately visible in the stitching, places where the thread doubled back or the pattern changed unexpectedly, representing the truth that grief changes the pattern of our lives but doesn't destroy the overall beauty of the tapestry we're creating. Iris learned that her blankets worked not by eliminating difficult emotions, but by creating a safe container for them. A person could wrap themselves in one of her winter blankets and feel all their sadness, anxiety, or loneliness, but those emotions would be held gently rather than overwhelming. The blanket seemed to whisper, "You can feel this. I will keep you safe while you feel this." The seamstress developed different stitching techniques for different types of calm. For active calm, the peace that comes from having completed something difficult, she used bold, decisive stitches in clear patterns. For passive calm, the peace of accepting what cannot be changed, she used softer, flowing stitches that meandered across the fabric like streams finding their natural path. For resilient calm, the peace that persists even during challenges, she used tight, strong stitches that created an almost indestructible bond between fabric layers. Winter after winter, Iris's workshop became a sanctuary for people seeking refuge from internal storms. They would arrive at her door carrying their anxiety, grief, or exhaustion like heavy burdens, and she would invite them to sit in her workshop while she worked, understanding that watching calm being created was itself a form of healing. Many customers reported that simply spending an afternoon in her peaceful space, watching her practiced hands move needle and thread with patient precision, left them feeling more centered than they had in months. Iris also taught workshops for people who wanted to learn to create their own calm through sewing. She understood that while her blankets could provide comfort, teaching people to create their own sources of peace was an even greater gift. Her students learned that the magic wasn't just in the finished blanket, but in the meditative process of creation itself, the focusing of attention, the repetitive soothing motion, the transformation of raw materials into something both beautiful and functional. The most remarkable aspect of Iris's blankets was that they seemed to hold their calm indefinitely. Blankets she had created decades earlier were still being used by families who had passed them down through generations, each new user receiving the same gift of peace that the original owner had experienced. The calm she wove into fabric didn't diminish with time or use; if anything, it deepened, as if each person who found comfort under the blanket added their own gratitude to its peaceful energy. As Iris aged and her hands grew less steady, she worried about whether her gift would continue. But she discovered something beautiful. Several of her former students had begun creating their own calm-infused blankets, each bringing their unique understanding of peace to their work. A grandmother who had learned from Iris created blankets specifically for newborn babies, weaving in the calm of maternal love. A young man made blankets for veterans with PTSD, incorporating patterns that represented safe homecoming. On the last blanket Iris created before her retirement, she decided to weave in every type of calm she had learned to create over her decades of work: the peace of deep sleep, the serenity of acceptance, the comfort of being understood, the relief of releasing control, the joy of simple pleasures, and the profound rest that comes from knowing you are exactly where you belong. This masterpiece blanket, which she donated to a hospice center, became legendary for its ability to bring peace to people in their final days, helping them transition with dignity and calm. The seamstress who wove calm into winter blankets taught the world a lesson that extended far beyond her craft: that peace was not a luxury or a destination, but a skill that could be practiced, shared, and woven into the very fabric of daily life. Every blanket she created was a reminder that comfort could be created, that anxiety could be held gently, that even in the coldest, darkest winters, warmth and calm were always possible for those who took the time to weave them carefully into existence.